Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here and for joining me tonight. How is everyone doing? I hope you are all well. Hey, Adrina, thank you so much for being here. Hey, Tanya, thank you so much for coming. Hey, Kay Cole, thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. I hope you're all taking care of yourself and that you are being safe and that you are well. So it just started storming out of nowhere. It is pouring and there's so much thunder and lightning right now. So I hope it does not interrupt with our Wi-Fi connection, but I just thought I would let you know up front. It is pouring. It's wow. Anyway, hello, Telsha T on MPD. Thank you so much for being here. Before I get started, I just want to take a moment to remind you that if you are in the DFW area, Tanya, Just Say No to Narcs, and myself will be having our first meetup. And so we're excited. We are looking forward to getting to meet you, to be able to have conversation with you, to break bread with you. If you are able to join us, don't forget to bring your mask because we still have to follow the state's guidelines, but we are still going to get together and enjoy our time together. So today I kind of said I wanted to talk about the creation of the false self, about how did this creature come into being. And it's I thought this is where I wanted to be, but then I kind of find myself going sort of another direction, but within the same type of topic. So we're just going to see what happens here. But if you do have any questions about anything, please do go ahead and add them into the chat. I'm going to do my best to try to answer them. And I guess we can go forward, and to the people who are watching on the replay, thank you so much for joining us and being here and watching this video. So we know that narcissism in itself is created in childhood. And according to the medical professionals, they say that there's a traumatic event that the child experiences, and that is, their them developing narcissism is nothing more than a coping mechanism to help them cope or help them deal or process that trauma that they experienced. That is what is said on the medical side. Now, it's kind of interesting because many of us, myself included, actually do or did experience some form of childhood trauma. And so, we didn't become narcissists. I became highly codependent, very, very codependent. And there was a lot of, that's what helped me make sense of my life. Or, I was just able to view myself through that lens as I continue to, to journey throughout life. But it made me question a lot of things, especially as we try to find out more about narcissism as well as codependency, so that overall we can heal. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing more, that I think I would ever want for any one of you to experience anything other than total healing, to experience total restoration of your mind, body, soul, and spirit. Because when we do experience trauma in childhood, it affects all of those areas of our lives. And they are all intertwined. And it's so it's so it's a part of who we become. And but I had to like pause, because I had to figure out, like, God, okay. And I'm saying God because that's who I believe in, right? I'm saying, but God, like, what is really going on behind here? Because one thing that I understand is that nothing of eternal change, nothing of eternal consequence can happen without prayer. That's what I believe. And so if we're looking for if we're looking for solutions through prayer, then that would indicate that it's a spiritual problem. Because if it was just something on the natural realm, or if it was just something like, a natural type of issue, then it wouldn't require prayer. It would just mean go get a job so you can get more money, or just turn around and walk the other direction and everything will be okay. But when we start trapping into people's minds, into people's mental state, and it affects their spirit, their soul, then it's got to be something more than just a medical condition. And so for people to say that narcissism is a medical condition, I'm not going to disagree with them, because listen, we make things make sense for ourselves. They're the medical professionals. And so they're going to look at it and they're going to diagnose the problem based on the tools that they have. That does not make them wrong. And it doesn't mean that I'm right or I'm wrong. These are my thoughts, and we can have this discussion. And so what I feel is that, when we're growing up, right? When we have children of our own, because let's not exclude our children from this equation, as any parent, or even let's go back to the beginning. There was structure that God gave on earth. He created Adam, and he first, before he ever created Adam, he created an environment that would sustain Adam. He created the garden, and it had everything that would sustain life before he introduced man. So here comes Adam, and then life begins to take forth. But it wasn't until God looked around and that Adam was actually already in his purpose, because Adam was given his assignment, and he was given, he was told what he was to do. And Adam was already operating in that. And then hence came Eve, right? When he was ready. And then family grew from that. So right there we see the structure of the family, and we see the institution of marriage. We see the covenant right there in that, in that chapter of Genesis of creation. So there's order that's given, and there's the covering that a husband gives his wife, and that trickles down to the children. Remember, the anointing always falls from the top down. It doesn't just meet you halfway. It doesn't meet you here or there. And so when we consider narcissism, and there are many people that will say, well, this behavior trickles down in our family, and so it's just the way that these people are, or it's just the way that I am, or my mother was like this, my father was like this, my brothers, my sisters, my cousin, my grandparents. That's not right. Something is going on here. Or if you were to say, like, oh, well, we have a history of all of us being sexually assaulted, or all of us being affected by domestic violence. Why? What is it about you? What is it about your family? What is it about your bloodline that is pulling this type of person, or this type of energy or influence towards you? And so I had to dive into this and try to stretch my mind a little bit more to gain some understanding, and there's so many different perspectives to this. So I feel like, if you have your perspective, I have my perspective. I'm not going to say one is more important or one is right over the other, but if we take each one of our perspectives is one dimensional, but when we bring them together, we can get a three-dimensional view on this, and we have a better understanding. And so that's why I feel like, these type of conversations are important. So please definitely do share your comments, your opinions in the comments, so that we can go over them and we can begin to, grow together. So here's my thoughts, okay? And you can tell me what you have to say if I'm wrong or whatever, right? But they're my thoughts. And again, I'm a certified life coach, not a doctor, not a therapist, none of those things, right? They're my thoughts. And what I want to say is that I do feel like, there's communication on this earth, or that happens in the earth realm, that we may not necessarily be aware of, unless you are highly in tune with your spirit, that you're able to discern what's going on a spiritual level. That's why, some people are able to walk into different territories, into different areas, and recognize, in this area, there's a spirit of despair, or there's a spirit of famine, there's a spirit of this, because those are territorial spirits. They hang out in that area, and they hold that area as, they hold it under a strong arm, or they form a stronghold on that particular area. Why are there some areas think about your city, your state, why there's some areas that are infested with drugs and with crime? Because there's a territorial hold over that area. Why is it the people in that area are stuck, and they're held within a certain type of pattern? And that is what the stronghold is in that area. Whether you have your territorial spirits that are in the area, or you have familiar spirits that are watching what's going on there, and then duplicating it in surrounding neighborhoods. You may find that violence or, murder, rape, were not part of certain communities, but it begins to trickle because these things flow from the top down. And just like we believe that there's angels, there's also demonic entities very much at work. And so I'm going to talk about this from this type of, from this perspective. So I believe, like, like I said earlier, that medically they will tell you that, narcissism is formed in childhood as a result of some type of trauma, whether it was ongoing or it was a single event or a single circumstance that caused that child to have experience something traumatic. Now, when we talk about trauma as far as children are concerned, anything that a child cannot process is trauma. Anything that they cannot process is a traumatic event. So, it could be different things for different people. We all process things differently. And likewise, all children will process things differently. So now let's get into this. So if we're going to talk about, like, okay, this coming from a spiritual perspective, what is this person, what is this child, what is the narcissist that what does their family history look like? Consider your own family history. It didn't just all start out in one way, or you just didn't arrive and become a narcissist just like that. And so we've got to question that if this is a spiritual war, because so many people are calling it a spiritual battle, a spiritual this, but then let's tackle these spirits, because I know I even did a video saying that, it's the spirit of Jezebel that is behind the narcissist. Tanya has an awesome video on the spirit of Leviathan. I also spoke about the Python spirit that, works within the church. But as I dive into this more and I research more, it's not just that it's just one spirit, but there are a bunch of spirits that work in tandem. It's several spirits that work, and they all have different assignments. And there are low ranking ones and there are higher ranking ones. But all of these work together. So now, if we're going to talk about like a family bloodline, right? And even if you think, and I wish I would have prepared myself with a scripture, but it just came to me right now that there passages in the Bible that say that, when a curse was announced, it's announced over bloodlines. It's announced over third, fourth, fifth, even up to the 10th generation. That means 10 generations within that family are going to be bound by a particular strong man. Just like when blessings are pronounced also in scripture, it goes from second, third, fourth, up to the 10th generation. That's all biblical, right? So then why wouldn't this be? Why wouldn't this be? If we think about the narcissist, when you walk away from a relationship with a narcissist, what do you feel? What do you feel? It's like you're just confused. Like, for me, I was like, what happened to me? Like, none of it made sense. And even in the relationship, I would have moments like, why do I feel like this? Like, it's like I've lost myself. I don't have the joy that I had to do certain things. I don't have the joy to, experience life anymore. Why? And this is when we want to talk about that the narcissist really attacks your soul. Now, remember that your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. You think from your mind. They want to attack how you think and how you perceive things. They want to affect your will, your desire to participate in life, your emotions, how you think about yourself, how you think about your family, how you think about other people, how you perceive things. So if they're able to effectively attack your mind, your soul, your will, your emotions, they've got all of you. Because what happens within your soul is going to affect how you operate from your spirit, or whether you actually grow within your spirit, because ultimately we're supposed to grow and mature in our spirit regardless of what our faith is. All of us, there's a mandate on all of us to grow up in the spirit. We cannot be spiritual babes forever. We've got to come off the milk and go on to meat. Even in these narcissistic communities, guys, we've got to grow. We've got to grow. You have to refuse, make up your mind and say, I'm not going to be a victim forever. There's no timestamp on what your process looks like. And you don't just go from victim to victor overnight. There's a time and a season for everything, but there must be a track record of growth. Refuse to stay where you are not encouraged to grow. Refuse to stay. And even if it's like let me just go here for a moment. Like, if we're going to talk about church, right? And I'm just saying this to help highlight my points. if you're going to church and if you're faithful but you are not growing spiritually, you are not, the evidence of the fruit of the spirit are not part of your life, that's not the place for you to be. So don't allow attachments to people, because your soul, your spirit is more valuable than anybody else. And you've got to guard that jealously, because one day you're going to be accountable for what comes out of that, for being accountable for your progress and your growth. It's one thing to say, you know what, I was affected by this. Okay, here, me, I was affected by, a rapist, turned my whole life upside down. But can I go through life and miss all the other divine appointments that are assigned to me, because I can get, I can't unprocess the feelings, because I won't take the step to go get the help. And it's hard. I understand that. And I've walked it. I only started my healing journey. I mean, yeah, I was 8 years ago. So for 3.5 decades, I was bound by that. Like, I would be falling and tripping, crying in bed, suicidal, all of those things, because I hadn't processed those emotions. But imagine the lens that I was looking at life through. I'm not good enough. I'm trash. All those things that narcissist said that I was. But that's not your true identity. And so whether they were affected by a traumatic event or whatever, that's fine. But I want to talk to your spirit today. I want to talk to you so that you can gain some clarity on how serious this is, because everybody's saying it. Look at so many different channels calling this a war. But what is the war on? What is the war on? The war is for your soul. And if the narcissist can gain control of your soul, then they have control over your spirit, and the job is done. One thing, we give the narcissist a lot of power, but I want to just say something. Yeah, what they do is powerful. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Listen, we give them a lot of power, and the narcissist tries to make us puppets in their life. So think of us on a string, when in reality, they're really the puppets. They are Satan's puppets. He uses them daily, he manipulates them daily. And so, just as much as us, we're under a curse while we are with them, they are under one too. And their souls are being siphoned, even as they do, the evil that they do. And I'm not taking away from the evil, I'm just explaining that, you know what? They're under attack too. So there are those of you in these communities who are stronger, that you can actually begin to intercede on behalf of these people, because at the end of the day, the battle is not against you and me. It's not against me and my ex. The battle is between God and the enemy. And our job is to be watchmen on the wall. And that means we heal, so that you can be in a powerful position, so that you can intercede. And you don't have to intercede for your narc or your ex narc if you don't want to, but intercede for the ones that are being formed in homes, the children that will grow up to be narcissistic, because that's where they're being raised. Pray that they have a divine encounter that redirects the course of their life. Your prayers are valuable. Your prayers carry so much weight. So if you can pray for the person that you were with, and please don't think that I'm here to tell you to pray for them. Pray for the children that are still being conditioned. Pray for the children that don't have anybody to pray for them. We, like I said it, there can be nothing of eternal consequences without prayer. And so if you believe that, then get on the wall. It's really that simple. Get on the wall. We cannot allow this enemy to win. We can't. And at the end of the day, the book tells us that we are victorious through Christ. And so if we're victorious, then why are we not acting like it? Let's get on the wall and really do what we are supposed to do. So, okay, now if we go to the enemy, the devil is, he thinks he's slick, but okay, whatever. Let's go after him today, because first of all, he's raggedy, he's dusty, he's no good, he's double dealing, and he stank too. Okay, first of all. But at the end of the day, or on a deeper level than that, he's cunning, he's crafty, he's wicked, he's divisive. He knows that he cannot be everywhere. He's not omnipresent, he's not omniscient, he's none of those things. And so he has to get these minions to work on his behalf. And so every minion is assigned something to do. So some are actually monitoring spirits. So these monitoring spirits will watch generations of bloodlines. Some have been watching your family going back 10 generations, and they go back and they report, oh, there's I'm sensing a change that's coming in the atmosphere, because they're not God. So they can't tell everything. But because they are of the spiritual world, they are able to discern a change within the spiritual realm. So they can report that, and then these punks, right? They begin to talk amongst themselves to figure out what are the changes and what do we do to stop this progress from happening. Why do you think for some people that you're always on the verge of almost making it? Like, dang, I almost had that job. I almost got married. I almost got my healing. I almost got the house. I almost got my credit where it's supposed to be. I almost, but you never quite get there. Why? And stuff like that, you've got to reject it. You've got to reject it with any part of you, because that is demonic. And those, listen, these narcissists that we encounter, a lot of them, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are responsible for that spirit of almost. Listen, let's go back to these monitoring spirits. They watch you and they report. And so now what the enemy is going to do now, he's going to send another type of spirit into your family, and these are the familiar spirits. This is where I feel like all of this leads to the creation of the false self, because the familiar spirits are going to keep you bound by the same type of drama, by the same type of sickness, by the same type of generational curses. They carry all of that. And so, because they've been monitoring, they watch. Anytime somebody's making progress, okay, we're gonna let you go this far, and now we're gonna put all types of barriers and barricades to keep you from going. That's why in the Bible, in the book of Psalms, there's a verse where it says, you have the power to leap over every wall and every troop. Why do you think so? Because there are barriers that are there. Some of these are invisible, and so it's all, this is where the false self is created. So as a child is born, right? Just let's think about it right now. Somewhere there's a child who is born, right? And there are already spirits that have been assigned to this family, and they begin to monitor the life of this child, and this child grows, and this child faces, okay, let's use me as an example, right? So there's me. They know the monitoring spirits are watching me. They're looking for opportunities to come and invade my life and bring confusion, bring drama, bring hurt, bring pain. They're watching and reporting, oh, this opportunity, well, this person, the sick twisted uncle, he's on his way here, so okay, boom, an environment is created, I'm sexually assaulted, and now there's a transference of spirits, right? Anytime there's a sexual exchange, whether it's willing or not, there are souls that are exchanged. And soul ties are not just created through sex, they're created through relationship. There are many ways that soul ties are created, and it's not that every soul tie is bad. You have your good soul ties. So think about the ties that the soul ties that happen outside of sex, right? Through just rearing somebody, spending time, pouring into somebody, but it may not be healthy or productive things. So that's how you can determine whether it's good or bad. And so this child, me, for example, going back to me, I shared, like, my stories around being raped. And so here my injury comes into place. Now there's that transference of souls, or yeah, there's that soul tie that's created. But in that action, what happened? What was the narcissist trying to do to me in that moment? He was after my soul, right? After my mind. And and this is not to say there's anything special about me. There's something special about each and every one of us. And I believe that this is why we encounter some type of trouble, some kind of problem within our lives, because the enemy tries to stunt our growth. It tries to stunt our progress or keep us from reaching our full potential. So if they're able to capture our mind, and remember, your mind is housed in your soul, again, mind, heart, and will. This makes you, this is where you live, you breathe, you have your being. This is your personality. So if I can alter her personality, and if I can cause her to see If I can cause her to see herself through my wicked eyes, says the enemy, she won't be anything, because I'm going to push this spirit of suicide on her. So that's why when I was like 15, that was my very first suicide attempt. I tried it again at 21, but after that, I never did it again. But these are things that the enemy speaks to us. When you think about all the victims of narcissistic assault, abuse. Think about all the women, men too, children who are involved in homes where there's domestic violence. How many of them commit suicide? How many mothers do you read about who've now killed her, not just herself, but all her children too, because her mind has been harassed? This is why they call it emotional rape. Is really even psychological rape, because it reaches your highest mind, your highest being, and it makes you think that there's no more. And so it's important that you recognize that this is not, as much as we want to sugarcoat it and say that this is a medical or a mental condition, whatever. Yes, it is. Let them make it sense like that. But if it's running in families, why? 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 And so I feel like, it's that spirit, or it's that the generational curse. Absolutely. It's that generational curse, but then that translates to it being, there have been certain spirits assigned to this family, and that's why it runs through the bloodline. And so that's why you can have a narcissistic father, a narcissistic mother. They raise narcissistic children, and they go out and they continue to reproduce after their own kind. And that's why it's out there. That's why it's as ravishing and as difficult as it is for people to overcome, because it's your mind that all of these people want. Because ultimately, if they can capture your mind, they've got your spirit. When we talked about, or when I talked about the python spirit, and how it wraps itself around you, how it coils itself around you, suffocating you, that's the work of the enemy. That's the work of the narcissist. That's the work of the devil. Go back into your own relationship with the narcissist. When you met them, you were vibrant. You would do your makeup, you would dress up, you would do your hair, you'll get new car, do whatever you wanted to do for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, you were living your life, living it. And you don't have to go by anybody's standards on what living your life is. It's what worked for you. But then here comes this dusty person. I can't stand them, yo. I comes this dusty, raggedy behind person, and then after they've successfully love bombed you, deceived you, deception, spirit of deception. All of this is witchcraft. Anything that is in rebellion with the spirit of God, with the word of God and the will of God, is rebellion. And rebellion is likened to witchcraft. So they all operate in the spirit of witchcraft. It is all evil, it is all demented. And even if the psychologists want to tell us that this is not a spiritual battle, but this is just a actual mm, what is this called, an actual medical condition, right? Then if they're working in deception, well, according to the word, that is wickedness, that is witchcraft, that is. So hello, there's our answer right there. So we are at war. But when you know better, you have to do better. And I feel like it's so important for us, if we truly want to grow, if we truly want to come out of this, is that we recognize. And so it's one thing to want to know, well, the narcissist with the new supply, and what are they doing? They look happy over there. Are they happy? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, they are after your soul. So whether the narcissist is with a new person or not, and whether they're successful, whether they're having a great time, is none of our business, because we've got to work on fortifying our soul so that we can be saved, so that we can heal, so that we can hold, so that we can go forward, so that we really can reach our full potential, because you never get there with a narcissist. And so I guess that's why I'm so passionate that you refuse to just stay where it sounds right or it sounds good, and you don't grow. Like, listen, you're nobody's toy. Refuse to be somebody's puppet just because they're stroking you with the right words. If you gotta unsubscribe from me and move on because I don't read, I don't get it for you. If you find me boring, if you find me this, then you've got to go. You've got to go. You've got to go, and you've got to go where you can grow, because ultimately your growth is so important. Your growth is vital, because, like, listen, if this is a spirit of, like, let's say, let's go back to it being a familiar spirit. So then this familiar spirit's attached itself to me, right? To my family. Okay, but then what about my children then? Am I going to sit back and allow it to continue to wreak havoc in their lives? You're not just fighting for yourself. And so, it's nice to quote that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, against spiritual wickedness. It's nice to quote and throw those things around. But if you're not waking up to what it is to actually wrestle against flesh and blood, when it says we not wrestle not against, we're not fighting this person. They are a puppet. They are a dummy showing up on assignment. That is it. What is going on the inside of that person, that they themselves, some of them actually are fully aware that, you know what, yeah, because they made that blood contract. They came into agreement with it. Some of them are just going through life, and they're totally clueless, and even wondering, why am I the way that I am? Because these spirits are also sent to frustrate you. Why can't I get a breakthrough? I'm frustrated. And a lot of the times, even when we go back to that transference of souls, why do you feel the way that you do after the narcissist? Why suddenly are you angry? Why suddenly are you vengeful? Why suddenly are you hateful? You were not like that when they came along. So why? Because this person came and lied to you? Uh-uh. The person didn't come to you just to wreck your life or keep you off your kilter. It's your soul that they want. And so once there's been that exchange and soul ties are created, that's why you feel angry, because they're angry. That's why you're bitter. That's why, you're vengeful, or whatever the emotions are. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I want you, to grasp this. Think about when you were with a narcissist and you were feeling all those feelings that had you frustrated, that had you angry, that had you feeling whatever you were feeling. But how were they feeling? They weren't over there feeling frustrated. They were chilling. They were happy. They were good. They took your spirit. They took your peace. They took your joy. They took the serenity in your home. And because they got what they wanted, they can now relax. They feel good. But in your own home, you have no peace. You have no peace. And so that's exactly why they do what they do. They're just being used. I'm going to try and look at some of the questions that came up to see um, if I can answer any of them as it pertains to those. So spiritual warrior says, for those who have astral sight and discernment, you can see the demonic attachments on narcs. And that's so true. I know some people who can walk in and really sense that, this spirit or this has attached itself to this person. And they're able to just discern. And so it's important, because if it is a spiritual battle, then you need spiritual weapons. Our emotions are not going to cut it. Us being angry, us being upset, us being any of those things, it's not going to bring the resolve that we need so that we can truly heal. And you've got to go. The Bible tells us that we serve a jealous God. Jealous God, meaning that he doesn't want us to put anybody else above him. We cannot exalt anybody else above him. But now, if we're his children, we can, in our lives, we cannot also allow anybody to sit on the throne of our hearts who is doing a disservice to us. We can't allow anybody to sit on the throne of our hearts who belittles us, who speaks down on us, who hits us, who abuses us, who whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, sexually, they don't have the right to do that. Once they begin to do those things, they've got to go, because you're too valuable for that. I'm never ever gonna say it's okay to allow yourself to be subjected to the ways of the enemy. They're wicked, and you don't deserve any of that wickedness. That's not what you were created for. You were created to go ahead and help somebody. You were created to fulfill a specific purpose in your life. Remember, these fingerprints of yours, they're unique. Nobody else has them. And so that's how special you are. You're not a duplicate. And so now you can't allow somebody who's been duplicated by this dumb little tink in the pits of hell, and now they try to wreak havoc on your life because they look good, they smell good, they charismatic, they none of those things count. None of those things edify who you are as a person. That's why we think about it, the narcissist compartmentalizes people, and they have to have different people for different things. They don't self-regulate. They can't be a whole person by themselves, but you have the ability to think, you have the ability to feel, you have the ability to love, you have the ability to enjoy life. And you can say that, you know what, I don't like her today, but she's not all bad. There's no splitting in your mind, and you're living in truth. Like you can allow people into who you are totally. You don't have to be a chameleon and go around one person one way and another person another way. You're free to be your authentic self. Now, why do we need chameleons in our lives? Why do we need chameleons in our lives? And so even when you're trying to fight and come out of narcissistic abuse, it's very important that, if you're somebody who is a believer in whatever faith, then you also have to apply your faith to that situation. It's never going to be enough to just say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through this detox phase and it's going to be okay. Because if I didn't apply my faith to my own healing, I don't know where I would be. I don't know where I would be. I spent 35 years trying to find different remedies to help me recover from the pain of sexual assault. 35 years. And it didn't come from anybody. There was no therapist. When I went to therapy, I ended up coming home feeling even worse. And this one time, I already had children, and I could hear them laughing, playing in the other room, and I'm in bed crying. Windows, it's morning. I should have been up feeding them breakfast. I'm in bed crying. The curtains are drawn, no light coming in my room. I'm crying, and all I can hear, you might as well just kill yourself, because there ain't nothing good coming out of you. Those children will be better without you. And I'm thinking, you are a mother, you can't. And so I couldn't rely on my own strength. And I'd searched the world over. I tried every kind of drink. I've tried every type of club. I had my time doing those things, trying to just soothe the pain. Did it work? No. I would still go back home and have to deal with those emotions, that emptiness, that loneliness, that depression. You can't. None of that is going to work. And it wasn't until I put my own pride to the side and said, okay, God, like, okay, I've tried it. I can't. I need your help. And so even when I didn't know anything about narcissism. I was with my ex-husband and didn't even know who he was. I just didn't understand why he would do what he would do. Like, dude, don't you see that you're hurting not just me, but our children? I didn't get it. It wasn't until years after, when I dealt with a psychopath, and I was like, oh, this is what it is. And if it was not through anything but prayer and really seeking, like, I need the truth, and what you did to help me heal from the sexual assault, I need you to help me make this make sense. And that doesn't say that it takes away the pain, but it brings clarity and it gives you peace. You can watch all the channels, you can go to all the therapy, you can do everything, but don't ever leave out your faith. Apply your faith to the situation so that you can heal as a whole person, because at the end of the day, it's your soul that they are after, and there is no pill that helps recover your soul. There is no alcohol that is drawn or that has been created to recover you, to help your soul heal. There is no sex good enough that will heal your soul. I don't care. She could have diamond sauce up in there. There is no sex that will help you. There is no eggplant good enough that will. No, there's none of that. There is no drug that is good enough. There, you can buy all the Chanel you want. You can have all the Gucci you want. You can shop till you drop. You can work. You can work out. You can do all of that to heal. But if you don't tune in and focus on yourself, you're always going to be stuck. You're always going to be chasing the next high. And why do you have to chase the next high like you're the junkie? No, the raggedy, dusty behind narcissist is the junkie, not you. So don't continue to fall in the trap that you've got to do things to be better. You're good enough as you are. You're good enough as you are, and it's important that you draw in. And I like to say this over and over and over again, and I don't know if I could ever say it enough. You cannot go forward. You cannot experience any type of success or healing until you're willing to draw in, until you're willing to take accountability for the parts of your story that you wrote. And that was a tough pill for me to swallow after I got married, because I was like, listen, first of all, I was a good wife. I believed that I was, but it wasn't until like I really was willing to get honest and say, listen, what were you doing there in the first place? Because when we met, it dropped in me, leave this alone. And I was like, first of all, I'm young, I'm having fun, and I'll leave when I'm ready. Like, how dare you? And so I had to repent for being so prideful. But, I had to accept that, what, I was in a situation where I didn't belong in the first place. And because I was out of what I should have, an environment that I should have been, I was in an environment that I shouldn't have been in. It was very easy for me to act out of character. I was highly disrespectful to my ex-husband. And it was easy to do that because he was always doing stuff that made it easy, like, how many times are you going to cheat? How many times are you going to lie? How many times are you going to put your hands on me? All of those things made it easy to disrespect him. And there is no re-respecting a person. That just doesn't happen. There is no switch that will be like, oh, okay, I respect you today. I don't. And, and without respect, you have nothing. And so you've got to look in yourself and begin to just feel like, okay, what is really happening? And, how can I heal? And what was my part? Own up to your part. That's not to say that you need to stand on a pedestal and announce to the whole world. No, to yourself. You know what, Joy? You were kind of raggedy and ratchet yourself because you did A, B, C, D. Right. Okay. Now that means I need to work on myself. We can't worry about changing them. You can't change them. That's their own path. You cannot change them, but you can change yourself. And when we begin to work on ourselves, when we begin to change ourselves, when we begin to develop our character, we invite a we invite growth, or we begin to evolve. And once you evolve, now you can attract a higher quality person because you yourself a higher quality. If we want to stop attracting these narcissists, we've got to be willing to evolve, because there's something about us that attracts them. And we can call it vibrating on a whatever frequency, whatever, but familiar spirits. That's the familiar spirits in your background, and their familiar spirits recognize each other, and so they're going to come together. And so change, disallow those spirits any access into your life. The Bible tells us that you have the power. You are allowed to allow and disallow certain things. You have the power to tread upon scorpions, serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing, it said, nothing shall by any means hurt or harm you. That means you walking in power and in victory. That's why, as scary as a narcissist may be and as dangerous as they can be, you can attack them. And I don't mean attack them like, we're going to go toe to toe like this, but you can get them in that spiritual realm, and you can reduce them to their right size. Because listen, first of all, the enemy, we think about the devil, right? He's only mentioned in very few number of scriptures in the Bible. When he came to Job, right? He was searching to and fro for somebody, right? And God told him, go check out Job. Another time was in the wilderness with Jesus, where, when he tempted Jesus those times. That's it. So we can sit here and say the devil is chasing me, the narcissist is the devil. First of all, the narcissist, the ones that well, let me talk about the ones in my life. They were too raggedy, ratchet, and low down for the devil to really come out of his pit of hell to enter them and attack me. Why? Who am I? Like, the devil only came after Jesus and Job. We didn't hear the devil after David. We didn't hear the devil after Saul. King Solomon. Or he was after higher ranking people. So what does that mean? That means that the enemy sends minions, low lying demons to come and affect you. But if you know the power that is in you, listen, you are created in the image and the likeness of God. You are a child of the Most High God. First of all, you are called out of darkness into the light. You are a royal priesthood. And so you have so much power on the inside of you that if you spoke to that joker in the realm of the spirit and said, boo, that dusty behind has to sit down because they do not qualify to come face to face with you when you realize how powerful you are. And so, my whole thing here is to say that I need you, I want you to recognize your power. That, yeah, we can talk about them all day, but let's deal with our stuff first. We can talk about them and sit here and the narcissist, this and this and this. What about us? Are we ready to do the work? Are you ready to heal? Are you ready to be done with this chapter of your life? Our whole life doesn't have to be a life story that was just encountering narcissists. Let it stop now. Let it stop. That's right. Bye, narc. Not today. Like, let it stop. We've got to put our foot down and say, I'm done. I'm not going to encounter, I'm not going to entertain any one of these things. And people understand that we meet them in every area of our lives, whether it's intimate partners, whether it's work, whether it's professional, they're all over the place. But be so in tune with your own power, be in tune with your own spirit that you're able to identify who they are. You're able to discern that spirit and you can respond effectively and not waste your time. Sometimes, if they're at work, be ready to take a promotion. Say, listen, I have power to tread upon serpents and scorpions. And so, God, you told me that I'm your child. I need you to show me. I need you to pull down heaven on earth and help me overcome this, because sometimes the narcissist is there to irritate you so that you can be emboldened to apply for another position. Go ahead and do that. Get a promotion, get a upgrade, go back to school, do whatever you can do, but don't ever allow that raggedy dusty person to look back and see that you're in the same place. Because guess what they're going to be doing? That monitoring spirit going to connect with the familiar spirit and say, okay, so we have a slothness here. We have a desire not to move forward. And so we're going to now attach ourselves to her bloodline. Guys, we're not in this fight for ourselves. What about your grandchildren? If you can't think about your children right now, okay, you don't have I don't have grandchildren yet. Maybe you don't even have children yet. That's perfect. Wonderful. Break this now. You have the power to now begin to speak blindness to monitoring spirits. You can speak blind. Remember, you are a creative being. So use your words carefully. I'm not telling you to go in your prayer closet and be interceding for 12 hours. No. But if you just feel like you're uncomfortable, then you can just say to yourself, you know what? I speak permanent blindness to every monitoring spirit that is surrounding me. Period. It's over. And you speak these things, but you believe them because, people always, I get questioned quite a bit, like, are my words really that powerful? And I want to ask, like, who do you believe in? Where does your faith lie? Where does your faith lie? Because if it lies in God, then we know that according to the word, he created everything. And then he said that we were created in his image and likeness. So if I'm supposed to be like you, then I need to be able to act like you. I need to be able to see results like you. Remember, Moses and the children of Egypt were running away from Pharaoh. And Moses, first of all, he didn't want the assignment. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. He's like, I stutter. I can't do this. Right. But when they got to the edge of the Red Sea, and it was like, okay, what am I going to do? There was confusion. There was panic. These narcissists are chasing them. The narcissist and his flying monkeys are coming after them. They're hot after them. And so what did he do? God, what do I do? God, what do I do? Activate your apostolic anointing. Use your stick. So, what am I saying to you? Use the gifts that you have. So many people are unaware of how powerful they are spiritually, how anointed and gifted and talented. Listen, if you truly ran into your reflection of who you truly are, I believe you would scare yourself. I believe you would be like, whoa, what was I doing? Why wasn't I acting like I should have been? You got to take off those glasses and clean the lenses so that you can see yourself properly. But you're not going to get there without being able to look in within yourself and see, who am I? we can't. It's hard because we start to see our flaws and we start peeling off layers. But if we're not willing to do that, if we're not willing to do that work, if we're not willing to be honest, then how are we any different from the narcissist? We know they don't self-reflect. So if we don't want to answer our own truth, then how are we any different? How are we any different? And so keep that in mind. And keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to see if I can find any questions, comments that we can highlight here, because I think I've been talking for a bit and I got to bring you in the conversation. Sometimes I can really run my mouth, but okay, let me see what you say. Hi, Sharsh. So she says, the monster I was with told me he didn't respect me. He was right because I let him treat me like trash, but I kept trying to go back to the beginning of the love bombing stage. And that's so true, and it's so tragic that we allow them to really infect how we see ourselves. And the way that we allow them to see us, that's how they make us feel. And it never works out. They always are who they are. Oh, here's one that says, I recommend everyone read the book entitled The Art of Seduction. All of the narc manipulations and everything associated with them spelled out completely. It does not miss a trick. So the art of seduction, everybody, we're going to start a book club. We're going to start a book club so that we can read together and we can grow together, because listen, there's power in numbers and there's power in unity. Where there is unity, there's a blessing. And so I feel like let's continue to grow. Let's do the work, and let's not be afraid to face our truth. I talked about the narcissist being a double-sided minded person coming from First James verse 8. But we ourselves, if you are able to take a look at yourself and see who you truly are, and yet walk away from that, we're no different. So it's one thing to call them out, but we got to be willing to call ourselves out on our ways. And some of the conversations that we have, I know, like, when I have conversations in my head, sometimes I'm a bit much because I can be hard on myself. But nobody can criticize us more than we do ourselves. But it's also time for you to practice some compassion to yourself or with yourself, especially when you are now beginning to highlight some areas that you struggle in, or some areas where you recognize that, what, on this people pleasing behavior that I have, so that I don't feel the need to just be a yes man in every situation. And so when you find yourself going through that, the process of changing that mindset and changing your narrative as well as your words, practice some compassion, practice some kindness, practice some self-love. It's important that you step back and you tell yourself, like, listen, you're doing your best. And you can say it in the mirror, like, listen, you're doing your best. And if you don't want to, you can speak within your heart, but tell yourself, like, listen, you're doing the best with what you had, with a deck of cards life served you. You've done your best. You used the tools that you had. Nobody knew about the rape. Nobody knew about nobody knows what you went through during the marriage. Nobody knows. Whatever your story is, put it there and tell yourself that I'm doing my best. It's important that you are in tune with your feelings so that you can process where you are. That whole culture that says, get out your feelings, is toxic. That too is from the pit of hell, because I just spoke to you about your soul. Your emotions are your soul. Your feelings are wrapped up in your soul. Your soul is a God-given gift to you. So why would you tune out of your feelings? Why would you get out your feelings? Why? No, in fact, tap in, because it's an indicator of where you are. It's an indicator of what is going on around you. And sometimes you may not understand what is going on around you, and there may be an uneasiness. That's when I feel like if you're not able to recognize how you're feeling but just uneasy, journal, write. And one thing that I love to encourage people is to write to yourself in different stages of your life. One of the very first steps of recovery that I do like to share is writing a letter to your inner child. Or if you don't want to do that, allow your inner child to write a letter. So a lot of victims, of narcissistic abuse, or a lot of codependence. Let's just stay with the codependence. A lot of codependence, you're not validated in childhood. You're not able to express yourself freely. And so you grow up as a person who doesn't trust themselves, a person who doesn't see themselves. You procrastinate a lot. You're unable to make decisions. You experience all of those things. And so that's all because you were not validated and your voice was a lot of the times muted as a child. You're not heard. And so allow now your inner child to speak. And so, this can be a very painful process. For some people, you go through it one time and it's okay. And for others, it may take time, but write out, allow that child, give that child a voice. Give the little boy, give the little girl in you a voice. So allow them to write how they are feeling so that what's on the inside of you can come out, what they want to say so that they can be seen, heard, and validated comes out. It's not going to come from anybody else at this point. It's something that you have to allow so that you can be set free, so that the adult you can stop operating from the place where you were hurt. Like I said it, like with me, I was 4, and here's a 4-year-old me screaming to a as a grown woman with a wife, as a wife, a husband, because I'm still feeling unheard and I don't know. I'm not integrated as an adult, to be able to articulate how I'm feeling properly. And so, give that child a voice so that you can become, or you can develop into that integrated adult, and you're not operating from that place of anger, frustration, or guilt, shame, any of that, but you're just now speaking from your authentic self, and you're able to articulate yourself a whole lot better than you ever could, because you're actually in tune with your feelings. So write the letters, whether it's you writing a letter to soothe your inner child now, or allow that child to speak out and let them get what they're feeling out in the open. What that does is, like, when you start writing and you actually commit to the process and you pay time, or you give it time, you're able to tap into your subconscious. And when you start writing from your subconscious, you're going to see a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues that you have come out before you in black and white. And when they are in black and white, it's going to now shift your focus to where you need to work. It sets everything into perspective and makes it plain for you to see that I need to develop myself in these areas. And so once you're able to begin to see, then you can move forward. But this is a challenge for a lot of people, because now you see what needs to be done, and so your accountability is right there. Your accountability is right there. And so, it's great to have an accountability partner who's going to hold you, to the process, that okay, so now you said this is what you want to do, so what are you going to do? You said you wanted to do, are you doing the work? And that's all it has to be. You've got to be focused on, really being committed and dedicated to this process. Like I said, it's not an easy one, but you really have to, commit to it so that you yourself can heal, and then we can move on, and then you can grow. Because listen, this time next year, if I'm still in this space, I can't see you still being here talking about the narc, this and that, because the narc is gone. They're not coming back. You don't deserve them. You want to have somebody in your future who is going to love you, who is going to honor you, who is going to respect you, who is willing to lay their life down for you because they love you that much, who will move heaven on earth to show you what a great man you are. Men, aren't you tired of going home to confusion? Don't you want to come home to a woman who is peaceful, who is calm, who is loving, who is a safe place for you to share your day? Ladies, don't you want somebody who is going to be receptive, who is going to anticipate your needs and just be there ready to serve you whatever you need? All of this is possible, but it starts with us doing the work. We've got to look in here. We can't get there until we've looked in here and we've done the work. And it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's going to make us cry. Sometimes it's going to really, really keep you, you know it's gonna make you, it's just painful sometimes. Okay, I can't even lie. But that's when now you continue to do the work and you tell yourself, like, listen, I love you. When was the last time you honestly told yourself I love you? When was the last time? When was the last time you said to yourself, I forgive you? I forgive you for staying with this narcissist. I forgive you for believing the lies. I forgive you for talking so poorly on yourself. When did you say that? Okay, have you ever told yourself, I need you? Because You need yourself. Like, we it's easy to say how we need other people, but you need yourself. Sound mind, healthy heart, healthy body. Have you ever thanked yourself that, listen, I thank you for being compassionate. I thank you for, allowing yourself to go through life, and you've experienced all these things, but you didn't kill nobody. You didn't kill yourself. You're a good mother. You're a good father. You didn't allow them to you didn't allow them to, to take over your mind and to hold you down and to hold you back, but you were true. So don't forget to practice self-compassion to your, I mean, well, of course, if it's self-compassion, it's directed to you, but you've got to be able to say to yourself that, I thank you. I thank you. You didn't give up. You didn't give in. You're still a good parent. You're still a good father. You're still a good mother. And you're able to, just show up every day and, do life. So don't ever take the spotlight off yourself as you try to heal, because your healing is important, guys. Like, your healing is important. You were never created for anything other than, whatever God purposed in you. And a lot of the times we already know our purpose. I spoke to this lady today. We met on Instagram, and I don't know if she's here. Oh, thank you so much, Miss V. I appreciate you. But we spoke today on Instagram, and she shared her story. I don't know what to say. You know, life can be so crazy and life can be so cruel, but she's going to share her story one day. I hope she, she gets an opportunity to share her story. Abandoned as a baby. And if it wasn't for the owls who were hooting all night around her, mother, father, and a baby owl made noise all night, nobody would have known this baby was there. And this is what we're up against. So imagine the destiny attached to that name. But it's not just her, it's you also. I kind of feel like, we never ever, nothing is ever coincidental. If you're here, it's not a coincidence. I truly believe this. Like, and I know it may sound so cliche, but I don't think of it as cliche. If you're here, it's not by mistake. There's something about you. And so that's why I refuse to allow you to say that you're just going to hang here and you're going to be bound by these narcissists and you're going to be glued to places that do not challenge you to grow. You've got to grow. You've got to come off the milk and go eat some meat, because there is purpose attached to your name. There is greatness attached to your name, and we are all waiting to enjoy it. There's somebody who is waiting for your story. There is somebody who needs to hear your story so that they can come up out of their ashes and walk into the fullness who they are supposed to be. So even if you're sitting back and you're saying, like, oh, well, because your mind is still so wrapped up in the narcissist. Well, then, okay, my email's in the about section. Let's talk about this. Let's talk. Let's get you the help that you need so that you can come up off this channel and go somewhere where you can grow. And when I say go somewhere where you can grow, I mean grow into your purpose so that you can be now aligned to where you really need to be so that you can grow, because you can't stay here forever. You have got to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to do the work. And again, there is no timestamp on how long it's going to take for you to recover. Like, and that doesn't mean that, throughout life, you're going to get to a point where it says that, okay, there's no more pain here. No, there are memories, there are flashbacks. There are times when, in January of this year, I was at the gas station and, some guys were they were real disrespectful, and one guy grabbed me as I was walking back. But you know what, that took me back to being 4 again. I stayed in my bed for a week and I was just crying because it just triggered me so bad. I mean, like, I was like, and it didn't make any sense to some people, but I was triggered beyond belief. I stayed in my bed for a week because I just felt bad. So you're going to still encounter those moments. But when there's purpose that rumbles on the inside of you, you can't stay down. Even in those moments, you can't stay down. Purpose will knock on your door and tell you, listen, I need you to show up. And even if you are, listen, we all want love, but, you know, and I always say this, and I know we're not here to talk about relationships or marriage or anything like that, but the person that you are going to marry and love, love is not enough on its own. Is purpose attached to it? Because we can go through love and go up and down and everything. It's an emotion. But when you invite purpose into the picture, you can go so much further. And so it's one thing to say that I'm going to attach myself to this person, but you don't know your purpose. They don't know your purpose. You may not be the right people for each other, even though you may love each other. And if we don't want to keep on encountering things that are not for us, so you've got to know yourself so that you know that you know that you know this person is the right one for you because they speak to all aspects of your life and not just the feel good, you know? You gotta want more than just that feeling of being in love. But it does not happen until we dive into ourselves, until we're willing to say, okay, Joy, you raggedy, you dusty, you no good also. And so now let's work on you. That's where it all starts. That's why when the narcissist comes, when they come back to snoop and whatever, even hoover you, they won't recognize you because you've grown. You've evolved into who you are supposed to be. And that's the goal. So I told you about writing to your inner child or writing as your inner child, but then also write to yourself right now and thank yourself, appreciate where you are and say kind things. You can write yourself a letter of affirmation, whatever you want to call it, but then take it another step further and pick out a date. It could be 3 months from now, it could be 3 years from now. You pick out a date and write a letter to your future self. Pour out all your dreams, all your aspirations, all the goals, everything that you want to see, everything that you want to achieve in life. Put it on paper, put a date on it, and put it away. Set a reminder, however you're going to do it. And then when that date comes, open that letter. Take yourself out, get dolled up or whatever, buy yourself flowers, do whatever you're going to do. Go out and read that letter and ask yourself, how have I done? Have I been committed to the process of becoming this person? Have I been committed to, you know, becoming me? One thing that I used to do is I used to live my life kind of like in fragments. I don't know if it makes sense, but I always lived backwards because I always wanted to go to the day before I was ever sexually assaulted. I always wanted to go back to that day, but you can't live your life backwards. And I would always say that if I could just get to her, I could hold her, I could affirm her, I could tell her that I'm going to be there and that this isn't going to be, that she's going to be okay. But how could I tell her all those things when I was so broken? And, I always just wanted to be her because I figured she was a happy person and she would have had a different type of life. But she's that person's been with me this whole time. We've been doing life together. And so, there is no separation, and so help writing those letters. And let me tell, it was so hard. It was so hard, but it was one of the things that truly, 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 shifted my mindset as well as set things in perspective and empowered me to say, like, listen, no more of this. And so I didn't care at that point. Once I was able to see that this is how she feels, okay, I'm going to honor you today and I'm going to live out this life. I'm going to be me the best way that I can to honor you as well as the future version of myself, and that's it. I just became stubborn with my goals. I became stubborn with, like, anytime I feel like there's something that doesn't feel right here, I may not be able to understand it, but I just held onto that. My intuition does not require evidence. I don't feel right. And so I'm just going to grasp onto my belief, onto my faith. And if it means that, you're going to look like as crazy as Noah did before it started raining, then just look crazy because the rain is going to come and you're going to be right. And so what am I saying? Stand firm on your belief. Hold on to it. hold on to the hope that you have and just rock it out. Don't be afraid. You know, you are so powerful. Remember, I told you these are low lying minions. And if you go boop, it got to back down. There's nothing it can do to you. There is nothing it can do to you unless it does something through you. And then, that's a different thing. And so even, even with, all this abuse and all these things that we encounter, yeah, we can take a look and say, this was out here to devastate me, but allow it to be a stepping stone, allow it to be a stepping stone. Yeah, I remember every single thing about what happened, about the whole, that day. I remember everything. It's about what happened after that I don't necessarily remember, but I remember everything. And you can't erase some memories, but I can turn it and allow that to be a tool to propel me forward. Because now the way I think about it sometimes is when I feel like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing this, I don't feel like doing that. But I sometimes my mind just goes right to it. Okay, but then now you're giving in to the enemy and you're letting them win. After all the time I spent lying in the bed because I just didn't feel, I was just triggered. It was remembering that I had to get up and fight for myself and move forward. And so, allow it to propel you forward. It's painful, it's hurtful, but you are the powerful one here. You are a powerful being, you're a powerful person. And so, don't ever think that you can't, because you can. It really can. So, don't ever believe the lies of the enemy. Any narcissist that you encountered, whether it was, throughout your childhood, whether you grew up with them, remember, it's your soul they want. And so you've got to jealously protect that soul. You can't let them get at it again. And that's why it's so important. That's why I think for me it's so important, once I grasp that, okay, it's the soul that they want, so that they can stifle your spirit, or that they can, choke your spirit. Which, if we think about your spirit, that's the breath of God. So ultimately, you're telling me that you want my life. If I'm going to make it make sense, that means they want my life. That means that you don't just want my spiritual life, but you want my physical life. But if you have my spiritual life and my physical life, what does that say about my spiritual destiny? Because we all going to end up somewhere. And so if they're able to siphon that out, that means that we are our mind is more wrapped up or concerned with them than our true being, which is the ultimate goal. That's why, I say that the narcissists that we encounter, they're just nothing more than puppets on a string that the enemy is using effectively to affect our lives. And so it's time to say, listen, every monitoring spirit, I speak permanent blindness to you now in the name of Jesus. Every familiar spirit, I speak confusion into your camp. You are allowed to use your words. Send confusion back into the camp of the enemy. One thing that I do love about the book of Psalms is that it has some of the most crazy phrases there, and phrases, as well as sayings. And so I'll be like, wow, you really can say this? And I'll be like, oh, okay. So I pick up what I see there, because what I know is that the word says that the word of God does not return to him void. Okay, so God, if I'm living my life eh, the best way that I can, I'm still a sinner. I still need you, right? I'm no saint. None of us are. But if I can speak your word, then I must be able to expect it to perform what you said it would do. So if I'm saying right now, according to your word, that Psalms 91:11 says that you will give angels charge over me. That means your angels need to be dispatched now so that I can be protected in this situation. That means that I need your angels to cover my mind. I need your presence. You said that, you have given me everything pertaining to life and godliness, but I'm feeling choked, and I need to see you manifest your presence in this situation. A lot of the times, we can be in bed crying and crying because that's how we feel. Turn on some worship. Turn on some worship music. The one night, not that long ago, a few months ago, not even a few months ago, I remember I talked to Tanya about this. um I was just having a really weird spiritual season, and I was like, Tanya, something doesn't sound right, or doesn't feel right. And I had this really weird dream. So I dream a lot. I get to see a lot of dreams, and I get a lot of my answers through dreams. And I was like, this is just okay. It didn't sit well with me, but I woke up like out of my dream, like, that kind of like, it was one of those that seemed so real, but it was so weird because in the same moment, this playlist that's here on YouTube, I'm actually going to add it. I'm going to remember to put it into the comments here. It just began to play, and all it was the word of God being affirmed over and over again. It was so powerful, and that really spoke to me, and it kind of made me realize that I need to look at this narcissism more on a spiritual plane, because I was kind of like, do I want to look at it this way or not? And I got attacked in my sleep. Like, that dream was just crazy. But then immediately the comfort from God, and I didn't do it. My phone was, it stayed on my desk. I wasn't with my phone, but that immediately came on, and I was like, wow. So it was so powerful, and it was so relaxing because, when I dream like that, sometimes I will pray. Not even sometimes I will pray, but sometimes it's just like, a nervousness in me that like I can't pray or I'm stuck or whatever. But once that began to play, I was calm and I didn't worry about anything anymore. And another thing about like, being able to worship. Worship invokes the presence of God. So even if we have narcissists raging within our houses, our homes, worship, excuse me. And it doesn't mean that you got to, do the most with your work. Play some worship music. You don't have to even make it loud. Let it be a humming sound in the background. I think I've been talking too much, y'all. But I think I'm going to end here. There's a lot more that I want to share. So I think for my lives, I'm just going to flow like this. I'm going to go through the comments and I'm going to answer you, and I'm going to respond. But like I said, if you really are feeling like you're stuck and you can't move past your childhood wounds, I'm willing, I'm here, I'm able. My email is in the about section. Like, just let's talk. Let's talk so that you can get the healing, so that you can meet your true self, so that you can walk into your purpose and in your full potential, because we don't want to see you stuck in this state of life forever and ever. You deserve a life where your mind is free from torment, where your mind is free from shame, where the psychological prison is broken and you walk out victorious. Remember Paul and Silas? They walked out free after that python spirit wrapped itself around them. They walked out free. The chains came off. That can happen for you. The chains that keep you bound to what happened in your past, what happened in your childhood, what happened with a narcissist, all of that. You deserve freedom and liberty. And it's time. It's time. What are we waiting for? It's time. Let's do the work. Let's get better, and let's continue to get better. Let's help one another so that together, collectively, we can become healed and whole, and then become solid watchmen on the wall and intercede for those children that need us to be a voice right now. A lot of the times you might not even recognize that, you're on the wall praying for your own child, or praying for a child that you don't know, but in the future it could be your child or your grandchild who is going to benefit from that prayer. You may not even be a parent right now, but that's kind of how these things work. You just never know. But once you announce those words into the atmosphere, and if you believe them, and your heart is pure, your hands are pure, and there's no hidden agenda within you, then your prayers will be heaven bound. They will not come back to earth, and they must produce fruit. And that's all it is to it. That's all it is to it. So you form up in your mind that this is it, and then that is it, and then we roll out of here. We gangster like that, and we gonna tackle these demons in prayer. There's no going back and forth with the narcissist. There's none of it. All of that is trash. No, you deal with that spirit in your time, in your prayer. You keep that music playing, that prayer playlist, or whatever is your favorite worship. Allow that to pray. You don't even have to, even like, okay, I know not everybody believes in God, right? I know, and not everybody believes in prayer, or sometimes you're so intimidated that you feel like, I can't do this. That's fine. just play the music. Just play the prayer. Download the Bible app and just turn it down. Not all the way down, but turn it down so that you can announce to the entities that are around you, the monitoring spirits, the territorial spirits, the familiar spirits, those low-lying minions that are trying to gather information and report back and forth about what's going on in your household. Allow them to be terrorized by those prayers, and then one day pray. You don't need elaborate words, you don't need any of that, you just need your heart. That's it. God not looking for any of those things. It's your heart that he wants, and it's your heart that is effective. So keep your heart and your hands clean. And that's why, I'm not telling anybody to right now get up and forgive everybody. No, because forgiveness, I feel, is a process. But be willing to forgive those that sinned against you. And also, don't forget to forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself is like the very first step in your healing process. And until you forgive yourself, you can't begin to heal. You're always going to blame yourself. You're always going to bash yourself. You're always going to harass yourself. You're always going to be your biggest hater. And you wouldn't even know it. You just feel like I'm going through life or anything. But forgive yourself so that you can begin to take the first step and continue to move forward. So, fortify yourself. Don't fear yourself. Don't fear the process. And yeah, it has its moments, but continue to do the work, continue to go forward so that, you can tell me what your new favorite channel is, whatever it is, so that I can see, oh, okay, this is what you're doing now. And that's all it is. I want to see you walk into your prepared places. They are there, they are ready, they are waiting for you. And so, it's one thing, like, listen, Tanya and I, we spend time together, we pray for you, and our prayer is simple, that we want you to encounter divine opportunities. We want you to have golden connections. We want you to walk in your prepared places. We want you to be empowered, that you would no longer be afraid of yourself. You would no longer be afraid of your power, that you would no longer self-sabotage, that you would no longer believe the lies the enemy told you, that you would no longer be subjected to the torment of the narcissistic parents, the narcissistic partners, none of that. The narcissistic boss, they must submit to the God in you. And that's all it is. That's all it is. So everybody, I thank you for being here with me. I know I've been rambling, but I appreciate you all so much. And I truly want the very best for you. And so, please do the work and focus forward. This is all a spiritual war. And so you have to suit up. You have to suit up. You have to, the mind of Christ is upon me. Speak to yourself. Speak to yourself. Don't, you're your own greatest prophet. You don't need anybody else to pray for you. You don't need anyone to lay hands on you, especially if you don't know them and there's no relationship, because you have to test the spirit by the spirit. You've got to know who's touching you, who's holding you, all of those things. So be very mindful about those things, guys. And I'll be back here next Tuesday, and I guess we're going to continue. Until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.